Okay, great. So we're live. So everybody who's here, hey Claire, she's already here. Guys, thanks for coming. Today we're going to talk about the scaries of going back to school. So all those weird fears that, and honestly, they're quite justified fears that students have, that parents have, and we as online tutors, as people who have taught in the classroom, but now we actually work with students online, we want to be able to empathize with what parents are feeling, because we don't just teach students and then in the day, it's some of it is we're relating to people. We want to try to get rid of those fears. And so you guys, some of you know me, I'm Jessica, and I'm the owner of JPIS Tutoring, and we tutor reading, writing, and math. And now we get to meet with students that are elementary, middle, and high school. And so that's been really fun, and things are starting to pick up big time this September. So guys, I'm going to introduce my friend. I'm not even going to say a word about her because I know you're going to want to hear her talk. All right, take it away.
Hi, I am Natalie Chama from Chama Tuition. I'm an online writing tutor. I'm a theatre practitioner, and yeah, I tutor secondary school students between 11 years to 18 years old, specialise in GCSE, and yeah, I love what I do. And yeah, and I do a lot of creative writing, a lot of focus on spelling, punctuation, and grammar. I like to make it fun. I'm a little bit off the wall with my tutoring, but yeah, they tend to make progress. So yeah, I really enjoy it. So, and I've done a live with the amazing Jessica before, so I really enjoyed it as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to talking about our topic today.
All right. So the topic, talking about fears in school. So it was literally, and I actually still use papers sometimes. So, what are your back to school fears? So as people who actually teach, it's so different now. But I remember being a student and having that the excitement or the fears. But this year, the fears and the feelings are a little bit different now. So both of us put this question out on our social media platforms, and one person said that, well, a legitimate fear I have is, will my child fall further behind if we go back to virtual school? So have you had people tell you like, oh, we really hope that we don't go back to all public virtual learning?
I've had a mixture. So I've had a mixture of students really looking forward to going back into school. Um, I had a student today, and I said, "Oh, how do you feel about going back to school?" And he is really excited because of the fact that they can actually go back to some sort of normalcy as well. Because in the UK, everything is gradually going back to normal. So
Mhm.
like, we're not going to have masks on, we're not going to be in we were in bubble systems before, and they're dispersing that now. So we're not going to we're not going to have that. They're going to be in different classrooms. Before, they had to stay in one classroom for the whole day, so that was really hard for the kids. So yeah, and then there are a few kids that I have spoken to, they said that they're just anxious about kind of getting back into the swing of like schoolwork and meeting deadlines and stuff. But overall, it's been relatively positive.
All right, that's great. Somebody else also says that for me, they were worried that not knowing what experiences their kids may have if they shut down. So if things, and I know that some of the opinions might be different over there compared to the States, but there was so much back and forth last year. And although there are a few students who prefer the virtual learning, some of them do, the younger kids in particular seem to be better with having, they needed other playmates, other friends to work with.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so what are they missing out on? We already know that the senior class last year missed out on their traditional graduation. For here, we usually graduate in May. So the parents it's just they're thinking about their kids, and they're thinking of, well, if we have to go back to virtual, that totally disrupts their world. If this Delta variant if it continues to get worse and we got to take some type of drastic measures, what are we going to do? And there are a few others who have said that they are worried about the fact that their kid got behind just because they're trying to learn online, but sometimes the schools weren't prepared to. No, they don't do what we do. They're not working one-on-one or one to small group with a, established kind of zeroed in idea. Like I guess when you're online, you have all these school platforms and they're like, here, let me post some discussion boards. Let me post some work. And the kids would get lost. And they're like, wait a minute. We weren't trained on where to go, even though kids figure it out pretty
Yeah.
quickly. They don't always know.
Yeah.
Well, what were you thinking? Like, what are the fears that you were predicting people to be feeling? Because I saw people posting about it a while ago, like kids are anxious. What do you think?
I think the whole, I think it's obviously with the Delta variant and all of that going on. I think with the kids, I think what I think they're scared of is to go back to remote learning and not see their friends, because the first thing that my student said today was he was really excited to just see his friends and to actually be in the class with his friends and not feel restricted, because even in my school, because I work in a secondary school by day, and yeah, the year sevens, the younger kids in the secondary school, they wasn't able to see any other older year groups, so they felt like they were like king of the castle sort of thing. They were like, oh wow, this is our school. And now they're gonna realize that no, it's not.
No, not at all.
So that it was I think feeling isolated is what they're scared of. But funny enough, when they were working from home, their work was actually at a higher standard than when they were working in school. Like I found their work much better. And they even noticed that themselves. They were like, yeah, miss, I know my work was better at home. I know.
I
And
wonder why. You would think, but maybe not.
You know what it is? It's too many. When you're in a classroom in a conventional setting, there's just too many distractions. It's just like, especially when you have to think about all these personalities in one room. You have about it, usually in the UK, we have in the secondary school setting, usually have about 30 to 32 kids in the class. And you have so many different personalities, so many different needs. And in my school, it's mixed ability. So everyone, there's no specific set level. In other schools there is, but in my specific school it's not. So you get the kids that are either mid ability or high ability. They get frustrated with the low ability kids if they're not behaving. Or sometimes the high ability kids, some of them might misbehave if they're not being taught properly by a teacher that has time for them to challenge them and push them. So it can be a little bit of a vicious cycle sometimes. And that's why it's really important. Online tutors is so important for specific kids, especially if it's high ability kids that need to be stretched, or low ability kids that is reluctant. And sometimes their reluctance is just mainly they just don't have the time to concentrate in class.
Yeah. I remember being in the classroom, and that was a major problem where kids, some of them, the kids who are maybe disruptive or they get distracted, they're actually good students. They have the ability to do the work, but they're too concerned with the social aspect. And so they're looking around, or someone calls their name, or they anything at all could happen. And then they're not thinking about the class content. So as the teacher, you feel like you're just having to nag at them sometimes, like, get back on task. But at home, especially if the parent is around, I guess they can't cut up and clown around. They would have to do the work. So, and that probably does work for some. I mean, I knew I have a friend who, she has a teenage daughter, and she said they went back to school several weeks ago. This was still in the spring, and she said there were so many restrictions with the mask, and they were having to walk only in certain spaces, and everything it was just like being on another planet, I guess. And so the girl said, I think I'm going to opt in, go back to virtual learning, because I'm not really getting anything out of being here. Is not the same experience. It's not the same social experience. So she went back, and I felt bad that she did that. I felt bad that she felt that that was the only way she could learn, was like, well, I can't learn here. I guess I'll learn back at home. So, and that's, as if like you're a parent, would you want your kid only learning everything at home? Because we're online tutors, we're kind of biased. We think it is possible to learn at home. You can't learn every little thing on the computer. So what do you think you want to have for your daughter? Because as we become more and more of a virtual world.
That's a very good question. I think it depends on her, because I'm really tapping in, like, as she's getting older, she might not be very academic. She might be very a practical. And I really believe in I believe the different multiple intelligences. That's from Howard Gardner. I love that theory of multiple intelligences, where you can be you can actually learn better in nature. Some people learn better when things are demonstrated in front of them, so they're a kinesthetic learner, or you could be a visual learner, auditory learner. And I think it's all trial and error, and I'm just going to see what works best for her. And then I can kind of work out, okay, would school be the right setting for her? Or would homeschooling would be the right setting for her? And I think there's nothing wrong with either one, because it just depends on the child, and it depends on what will make that child thrive. And I think with my daughter, it's just trial and error. I've got a feeling she's going to be very academic, but I might be wrong.
Oh, she will be. She's got you. She's gonna at least like books. She'll have some type of appreciation, and we always hope.
She loves reading right now, and they're already saying at the nursery that she is a natural leader. So I don't know. And that could be leading practically or academically. I'm not too sure.
Right.
But I feel as a parent, I can actually really understand with parents. We can always have that worry, like, oh my gosh, am I doing enough for my child, especially when they go back to a new school year? Am I doing enough? Because even for my daughter last year, I was like, oh my gosh, am I doing enough? Like, when we were going through that pandemic, she's only like 3.5 years old. And I'm like, oh, do I need to do any like phonics with her? And then her nursery school teacher said, no, let us do it. You're going to do all the work, and there'll be nothing for us to do.
Oh yeah.
Oh, right. Okay, fine. But I think that's a constant worry all the time. But I think it's just taking those baby steps and really tapping into how does your child learn? Like, what do they like? Speak to them. I speak to my daughter. I speak to her like she's an adult.
I probably would do that too.
Do you want to do swimming, or do you want to dance? Do you want to do dancing? She's like, I want to swim. And I'm like, okay. So
yeah, because they have to learn decision making, and that's not even easy for me now. But I know that I recently talked to a new client, and their mom was like, what usually happens is they see the first few grades and they get worried right away. And so if the year is starting out, I remember starting out as a student thinking, I'm gonna study every night. I'm gonna do really well. Like, I'm on top of it. And then you kind of still slide back into your usual ways of I'm doing better in one class and a little bit not so good in another, or it's never completely all 4 to 6 classes are A's, like perfect. Usually there was a try to balance. So parents do not like it when they see their kid already having struggles early on. That's when they think, at least in my opinion, like the best parents are the most I guess the most motivated parents are going to say, hey, let's do something about it now. Because the kid knows that usually the students that we get to tutor are on board with it. Usually they're like, sometimes they're the ones that ask their parents, hey, I think I need a tutor. They don't want to fall behind and be alone because they can't always get help from the teacher. So parents get worried like, and then it's funny when the parents themselves, like I think, oh shoot, well, if I was the parent to your kid, I would just do this. I would read with them and write. The parents aren't equipped for these things that we can do because they're not all teachers. They don't all think like that, and they don't have the time. They're doing other things.
Rushed off their feet, especially. I think people really underestimate, like, globally, what we have gone through and what we are still going through. We had a pandemic. Like, when has that happened in our lifetime?
Not in our lifetime.
It's just like, and I feel like as a parent, or even some students, they're very hard on themselves. They're like, oh my gosh, I just want to get that grade, and I feel like I'm so behind. And it's like, just take baby steps. It's okay. You'll catch up. Like, we were in a pandemic. Like, I just keep saying to the kids last term, I was like, we were in a pandemic. Hello. Hello.
Yeah. Here's something. Okay, so Claire's saying she's still connected to a school right now, so she's still going to be like you, who's still stepping into the school system. And there's concern about students' mental health and missing out on social development. So yeah, for sure, because that's what I think the comments I got, they would fall into that category. It's like, well, the mental health thing, we're all speaking very openly about that now. But one of my students when she used the words mental health, I'm like, yeah, it's 2021. We never said that when we were younger. We'd just be like, what do we say? I'm sad, I'm bummed out. Or we didn't know that was something we could look at. So the social development, you can't always be on the computer. And we kind of think, oh, well, we're used to that by now. But no, you still need that. And some of it's just learning how to step out of people's way in the hallway, or, pick up loose toilet paper on the bathroom floor, like little things that, how would I teach that through what I do? Like there are some social aspects, like holding the door open for people. What else do you learn just with other people that
like please and thank yous, like
manners,
just having some manners and some etiquette, and just even about money and stuff like that, like those life skills. Like sometimes I like to connect just daily things into my lessons, and like even with I think we were reading a newspaper last time. It was talking about millennials and how they were affected by, the COVID and what's happened, and they are taking a stand, millennials right now, and they're taking a stand against, how they feel neglected as a generation. And obviously the millennials are our students, like our teenagers, and it's like, I thought it was an interesting article, and I brought it into the class and I talked about it. Like I had just those debates and just connecting it to your topics of what you're talking about. And it's really important, because I don't feel like we can go back to that sort of outdated way of teaching, and it's just not relevant to life. I think you always have to try and just connect it, and just for them to realize that, oh right, because when I even talked about money and the basic things of money and the basic things of investment, and they were like, oh miss, what, you can invest? Yeah, you can invest. I was like, you can yes, in stocks. And then they were like, oh yeah, my uncle invests in stocks. I was like, yeah. Like, and then I talked about Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yep, big
Then
fan of that.
a child actually got the book and read it, and they were like, oh my gosh, miss, it changed my life. And he was like he was like 14 years old. So it's just
Oh,
like,
I wish I started at 14. My goodness.
yeah, it's like, seriously, if I read books like that at that age, my word, I probably would be, I don't know, in Fiji somewhere with my big mansion. I don't know.
You would have had side gigs starting then instead of now.
Yeah, I would have started much earlier.
Well, maybe we feel overwhelmed. Just, I think parents do and teachers do, because we have, there's so much available. So how do you know where to put your child? And then when we were having to be at home, well, it's like you can still access. There's tons of online courses. There's all these things. You can get tutors for all kinds of things. But it's like, how do you decide what's most relevant? Or, I mean, honestly, when I was in high school, most of the stuff I do now, it wasn't relevant then. We weren't learning how to do things by watching videos online on our phones. We weren't, you couldn't do e-commerce, and now people know more about financial literacy. They're starting to, and that's something I'd actually like to start teaching, which I might eventually move toward that. And, or I'd love to develop, because it'd be more, well, it didn't have to be math oriented. Sometimes it's like, it's practical. Like I came up with a scenario actually when my husband is helping with math. I was like, hey, I have a real world question. So I'm taking a trip with some friends in a few weeks, but one of them is only staying part of the time. How do I figure out how much everybody owes? Because you put it, one person books it, the rest, everyone pays their share. So he was able to make a problem out of that and give it to one of our SAT students. And it was just sort of that was a very normal thing that people might have to figure out, because we tend to be lazy and say, just pay me whatever, or don't worry about it, I'll pay your, but no, just do a little bit of math and you can figure it out. So, I mean, I was going off on a tangent, but yeah, I think the fears are they going to be learning enough? Like, you still have time, you have access to things, but I don't know. I mean, I feel that we get back into our comfort zone.
Yeah, I think it's if they obviously homeschool, and if your child's in school, be two different ways that you can tackle that. So if they're in school, and your parent, and you're feeling really anxious and thinking, okay, I don't know where to start, are they going to be okay? You can touch base with their teachers and just find out, okay, what are they, what is the weaker areas, their weaker subjects. When you get their report, what's their weaker subject? Okay, their weaker subject is English. Okay, I'm going to touch base and speak to the English teacher. And I know a lot of parents say, oh, I've tried to contact the English teacher and I can't get through. But you can always speak to the headmaster or the head or the principal, and contact them and say that you really want to talk to them, or find out the head of that department, and then you can speak to them, and then they would pass it on to that teacher. And I think as well, we as teachers are getting more computer savvy as well. They will get back to you. I mean, it's so easy. Like, if a lot of schools, we use something called Show My Homework, and usually parents contact me directly from there via the program or the database, and it's quite easy. So I would say for schools, students in school, that would be the best way to approach that. And with homeschool students, I would speak to the child. If the child is if the child's a little bit older, I would speak to the child and see, like, okay, how do they feel about certain subjects? Maybe do some exercises. If they're really struggling, then you can kind of outsource your provision or help that if you need help in a specific area or a specific subject, you know, get someone, a tutor, to help in that specific subject, so you don't feel overwhelmed and you don't feel like you have to do everything. And there's tutors at different price ranges depending on your budget. So that's how I would say with maybe with parents and the anxiety thing. But sorry, I'm going off tangent. I don't even know if
No, you're fine. You know,
side
we
stuff.
we had a friend who he was going to study for the LSAT and do a career change, and when he was doing that, I remember thinking about it because we went into Barnes and Noble, and I saw the section of all these like all those test prep books. I've got 2 of them right there, and one of them was LSAT, and I thought. So I picked it up and looked at it, and I thought, you know, I know nothing about this. Like, I didn't go to law school, but I thought I could probably do pretty well if I put the time in to study this. I could probably do okay on that test. And then I thought, a part of me really thinks that we don't have an excuse as a society to be unaware of something. We have more information.
It's true.
More access than ever before, but yet we're more comfortable than ever before. So we tend to think, I don't have to. Do you feel that there's less hunger for knowledge, or do you think that's just a rumor?
I think it's sometimes is laziness as well, because it's like if things are so accessible and so easy to get, you would just think to yourself, like, you know, you wouldn't be so proactive sometimes. But sometimes we need to get out of that and realize that, okay, yes, it's easy to get, but obviously there's so much out there. We need to be really specific on what we need to look at and what we need to focus on, and we just need to try and be as proactive as possible. And I mean, it's hard because even when we were in school, it was like we used to work with textbooks all the time. We didn't have, like, I remember when the internet, when www just came out and everyone was like, oh my gosh, www, this website. And but we were more motivated to just kind of get the answers for ourselves. And I think it's important with the whole thing of technology, and obviously this is a computer generation, the kids now, but we need to kind of minimize that as much as we could with them, the usage of how much they are on the computer, because I feel like it does increase anxiety, and it actually makes your mental health worse sometimes when you're too consumed in technology. So we just need to have, maybe take the phone away at a certain time in the evening, with your student or with your child. Maybe a certain amount of hours on a day on the computer, or like, you know, at a specific time, block a certain time where they're not allowed to go on the computer, where they actually have to pick up a book and read it, pick up a dictionary and find the word. Like,
oh goodness, that in itself is a skill. You know, I show students where to go. Oh, that word's a boring word. Let's find a synonym. Look at the online thesaurus. I'm trying to train them to do that, because if you're not an avid reader during your life, you are struggling to think, what words do I have in my brain right now that I can put down on paper? If they don't have that, well, one way to remedy that is to use the internet. You have a word, let's find a replacement word, or let's define the word. Google gives you that little sound horn, press the horn and it'll pronounce it for you correctly. I'm always doing that, but you are right. There has to be some type of, you need a barrier.
Yeah, there needs to be a limit. There needs to be a limit with everyone, even myself. I've started to at a specific time in the evening, I would stop going on social media, and then on a Sunday is social media free except for WhatsApp, because my family's usually on WhatsApp, and if there's an emergency. But anyway, But when it comes to Instagram and Facebook, I don't go on it on a Sunday at all. And I make it clear to people that, you know, I'm going to get back to you. If they contact me on Saturday and they say, oh yeah, I'll contact you on the Sunday, I say, I'll get back to you on Monday, because I'm not on social media on a Sunday. And I think it's just having that healthy balance when it comes to technology, because it can be very consuming and it can make you feel, you know, you could be overstimulated, and
Oh yeah, that
your
I get that
brain
way.
going,
Mhm.
going constantly, and you can be mentally exhausted sitting down.
Yes, yeah. And kids don't know that. I remember my very first year of teaching, I had a student who this is just bizarre. She came in and she pulled up her shirt and showed me like her lower abdomen, like on her side. She said there was an imprint of an iPhone. I said, "What happened?" She said, "Well, I was staying up late on what were they? TikTok wasn't around several years ago, whatever it was." She
Snap.
said, "Oh, I was online. I was on my computer or social media." We didn't even call it social media back then. It was like whatever they were on. And
Yeah.
said, "Yeah, I was on Instagram and then I fell asleep with the phone and it made this like red imprint on her skin." And I was like,
Oh
I'm like,
my
some
gosh.
parents will take the electronics away because that's another fear. Like, how do I get my kid? How do I prevent them from getting addicted to the very tools that we use for learning? How do I keep them off? And it happened again. I said, "You need to quit going to bed with the phone, or
Yeah,
if you have to use it as an alarm, put it aside." I have to tell myself, put it away
I
because
do
it is
that.
addictive.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
this I want to show you this. So Claire's saying this is back to the comment about how some people can self-motivate you. Like we don't really have the excuse to say I didn't know anything about it because we at least have access. So no,
yeah,
he's saying, well, about the LSAT and studying by yourself, a lot of people can learn by themselves, but some don't realize they haven't met the bar until they get proper feedback. Yeah, I think I thought I could study because I studied for classes that I liked. Like we would US history and world history. I remember doing well in those classes because I didn't really need a tutor, but I noticed that for other courses like math, it was some people will just get by. But if you actually want to learn the thing,
yeah.
and have better confidence during those tests, because I would get homework help. And then I remember trying to go and take a test and I was like, wait a minute. And you can only ask the teacher for a little bit of help during the test, sometimes not.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
so it's like, yeah, you don't know how there has to be a measure. You have to have someone
Mm,
telling you, like, I have some students who think they're pretty good at something until I gently show them that said, well, actually, here's a way to make it better, without belittling them or telling them, you should have, done more, read more. Um,
mm,
so,
mm.
so we've got about another 3 minutes, and I think there's probably so many more fears of starting the year. And I remember back in the old days, it felt so simple. My fear as a student was, will my friends be in my class? Will I have a bunch of weirdos? It's always about the friends. I think I knew who the teachers were. They let you go and meet them ahead of time.
Yeah,
But what were
yeah.
your fears when you were younger, starting school?
I think you know, when it was starting a new year and then you have to get a new teacher. Um, yeah, I used to be a bit fearful of that, even though the teacher was probably fearful. Now I'm a teacher. Now I'm a teacher, and I'm just like, you know, when I do get new students, I do have a little bit of fear. Not saying I'm scared of them, but I'm fearful of, oh my gosh, it's just change. It's a change. It's something new. It's like you just want things to go well.
Mhm.
You want to have a good rapport with your students and stuff, and especially when it's the beginning of a new year. So for me, yeah, it was just a new teacher. If I was going to go into a new year and my friends wasn't going to be there, I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to make new friends? And just getting back to routine. Sometimes routine can scare you. Like I don't know about you, Jess, but I felt I felt scared to get back into routine when I was on the holiday, like when I took my break for the summer vacation, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get back into routine, which I was looking forward to getting back into routine, but I was still scared because I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to handle like all of the responsibilities that I need to do?
It's an effort. There's a little bit of dread. For me, it's dread.
Yeah, a
Oh
little bit.
no. Oh no.
You've been sleeping, you've been getting up anytime you want, you've been having pancakes more than once a week.
Oh my, that's
Banana pancakes with cinnamon. Anyway, but like but you
pancake.
know, it's just like, yeah, so when I was younger, it was fears of like new friends, maybe a new school and environment or new teachers and routine, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I'm just so glad you get to come and talk about this. There's so much more we could say, but I'm going to have to run. But for as far as this video, we know both of us have YouTube channels for our tutoring businesses. So if you guys are listening now and you can still comment on the video and share it, because that will allow more people to see what online tutors like to do and talk about, and how we like to address these really common issues that are prevalent in our society today. So everyone whether you're listening live or you're going to listen later, thanks for tuning in. And Natalie, I put your YouTube channel in the description box already, so people can go and click it and go directly there and subscribe, because she's just starting her YouTube journey. She's already got a great following on Instagram. So, all right. So let's go out there and take care of our students and have a good weekend. All right.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jessica. Bye.